Live.
Now we are live, ladies and gentlemen of Viewerland. You are more than welcome to this week's edition of Mauls, Balls and All. It is Thursday. It is 8:30, and welcome to you all. Our guests this evening are Mike Reedy, who you know he's joining us from Scotland. We have Peter Martin, we have Dara Weston, and we also have one of the elder statesmen of rugby. He is well known to all the purists out there of rugby. It is indeed ex-Leicester, ex-England. Jesus, folks, I tell you what, he is. I've said this to him before, so this is not going to be a surprise. He is the father of Argentinian rugby. Les Cusworth, how the hell are you?
Thank you for that introduction, Pete. It's very different. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Are you well in yourselves? Folks, are we all well in ourselves? As I always ask, in unison. Go.
Yes,
Yes. Excellent. Right. Before we get into everything, I just, one thing I need to ask you. You're with Leicester Tigers. You played for England. You coached England. How the bloody hell did you end up in Argentina?
It's a long story. Well, I'll make it very quick, Peter. I was fortunate enough to coach England Sevens in 1993. Andrew Harriman captain, Rodber, Dawson, Delalio, all the young kids. And we went up to Scotland for the World Sevens in Murrayfield, 93. And we weren't given a cat and hell's chance. And these young lads just surpassed themselves. The little scrum half, David Scully, a fireman from Wakefield.
Oh, yeah.
Cut a long story short, in the run that beat South Africa, New Zealand, Australia, Campese and Co., Ehlers and Co., and they won the World Sevens. As I was walking out the stadium, three big Argentine guys, you can imagine we were ready to celebrate, three Argentine guys said, Phil, we want your number, So I loosely gave them my number, and sure enough, 4 weeks later, a call came to Twickenham inviting the England Sevens team to play in Punta del Este Sevens in Uruguay. And all went, and I was lucky enough to be coach of the Sevens at the time. And the translator was a nice young lady, a very sincere young lady, and we've been together 32 years, Peter.
Wow. Okay. Well done. Okay. All right. Okay. So to come back on to the topics that I sent you, Les, we were on a show, I think 2 weeks ago, Les. At this stage, was it 2 weeks ago? I think it was.
Yes,
yeah, 2 weeks ago. And the panel that we're on, we're talking about the Lions the game against Argentina. That was whatever, last Friday week, whatever it was. And you were the only one, Les, who predicted an Argentinian win. How? I'm not going to ask you were you surprised at that, because obviously you weren't. But how do you think Argentina manufactured that?
We go back to 2004, and I was asked to be technical director of the Pumas. I was managing director of rugby school, a private school in rugby in England. And at the time, I was asked if I'd help the Argentine national team. I knew Marcelo Lafreda, the head coach, from playing with him, against him in the Hong Kong Sevens 1981. And I got invited to become technical director. So I did that for 4 years. I came traveling backwards and forth from Buenos Aires to London. And I saw the passion of the Pumas in that 4 years. 2003, they played Ireland in the World Cup and had a ding-dong of a quarter-final. And then this developed into 2007. We all went to Paris for the World Cup in Paris, and we got to the semi-finals and beat France twice on the way. You may remember. So, I've been well and truly ensconced in the Argentine philosophy of rugby, and I've lived here in Hurlingham, which is more Irish than Dublin. The team here wear the green shirt with the shamrock on. They have to get permission from the Irish Rugby Union every 2 years. So I'm well ensconced in the amateur rugby. I was director of rugby here from 2006 to 2011 in Argentina, and they wanted to know how to protect amateur rugby, but develop a national teams and a structure to compete against the best. So a guy called Mark Egan, who was head of development of World Rugby, IRB, International Rugby Board in Dublin. Mark Egan, Agustin Pichot, the captain of Argentina. And these two brilliant guys got together and formed a plan to protect all the amateur rugby, to keep everything amateur here. But on top of all that, to put 5 academies in the rugby playing provinces in Argentina: Cordoba, Mendoza, Tucumán, Rosario, Buenos Aires. And the best players of the lot were then invited to additional training in these centres. And over the years, they've now developed 16 centres around Argentina, all amateur. Nobody is paid, no coaches are paid, no players are paid. If they are, they're kicked out of the competition. And the game here, Peter, for the last 15 years astounds me. The sacrifice, the passion, everything is done for the club. As I say, nobody is paid. I live in Hurlingham, population of 35,000 people. There are 3 rugby clubs. So you look at the passion and you look at this. 2005, we were given no chance against Woodward's Lions team. Wilkinson kicked a penalty in the last minute to draw 24-24, and the decision was a bit harsh as well, I might add. But anyway, there we go. So, you know, I've lived and breathed Argentine rugby for the last 20 years. So when they think they can beat anybody at anything: football, basketball, volleyball, hockey, rugby, you name it. The Argentine, once they've got that passion and togetherness, they believe they can beat anybody in any sport. And I take my hat off to them. I sit in amazement week after week after week, watching the passion and commitment for these people to their local clubs in local community areas.
But Les, I tend to agree with you, and it was brought up on the Line show. I think it was Tim Simpson actually that brought up, or I can't remember, that the Argentinian players feel like when you're watching them, and maybe it's their belief, I don't know, maybe you can tell me, that they are playing for their club, not necessarily their country, or they're playing for their club and their family, not necessarily do you know what I mean? That it was a point made by one of them.
It was Tim Stimson, and Tim, I know Tim has had various Argentine players at the professional club he's played, and he said they always stick out like a sore thumb how welcoming they are, how they invite people to their homes, open their homes to people, and it's just part of what the rugby and sporting culture is here. You know, in Hurlingham, in all the major clubs around the country, hockey is played by girls predominantly, and rugby is played by the boys. So again, it's like rugby was 40 years ago in the UK, and you play for your clubs. What is a very interesting point, Peter, is 2007 we had the World Cup, Contempomi, Bishop, and there are so many players you could mention in that, Corletto. There's so many players who are really top draw international. Virtually every one of those players is now involved in coaching capacity or administration capacity in rugby. Here, they do it for nothing. They're not paid. And they're almost expected, once they finish their professional run in Europe, if they're lucky enough to get that contract, when they go back to the clubs Monday night, Tuesday night, Thursday night, Saturday at their clubs, because it's their family. And, you know, as I keep saying, I'm amazed at how the game is booming here.
Well, that's brilliant. Brilliant. But again, sorry, Mike, one second. Sorry, Les, I meant to say it. So you were not surprised when Argentina beat the Lions?
Not in the least.
You certainly weren't.
Not in the least. You compare player with player, and you know, people have been hinting last week in the press that it all comes down to hunger. I think that's true. You know, it's inbuilt in the Argentines that they represent all these amateur clubs throughout the country, and it's something unique they have here. And for me, I wasn't surprised. You know, we talked 2 weeks ago about how it will be a forward battle, how they've worked on the tackle area, slowing the opposition ball down, offloading in the tackle whenever they can. When they get the ball loose, they get it wide and get it free. When it's in the red zone, they get it tight and really try and physically demand more of the opposition that they can give. It's the same old. Last year in the championship, Australia came to one of the interior provinces to play Argentina in the rugby championship. Half-time score, I think, was 15-10 to the Pumas. Pumas eventually Pumas won 75-27 against Australia. And all you got to do is rugby guys watch that, and you think, oh my God, we've got something on our hands with these guys.
Yeah, very true, very true. Okay, Mike Reedy, you're dying to get in. Argentina against the Lions last Friday. Yeah. Were you surprised? Were you surprised? Were you shocked? Were you with that result?
Not in the slightest, and I said it last week, and I was.
Oh, you're such a liar! You're covering your own ass. Now you're covering your own ass.
Well, you can watch the show back if you want. I was accused
of sitting on the fence. You wouldn't say who you were supporting. You firmly planted on the fence.
I was because I
it could go that way or it could go the other way.
I can never back against my own team ever, so I couldn't pick any other team playing against. But the writing was on the wall completely. And exactly,
Mikey, you're full of shit. Go on.
Well, I'll tell you what should I get back for?
I'll watch it back. Go on, Mike. Go on. Where you go on? Continue.
Listen, the back line pick for the Lions was always just I could not. I was shocked, to tell you the truth. I wasn't shocked how the game turned out, and it turned out exactly how we all listen. We discussed it last week, and we all agreed on it. It was embarrassing, to be honest with you. But the Argentina were by far the better team and deserved to win the game. Absolutely no question about it. It would have been daylight robbery if they hadn't won the game, to be honest. But all right. I wasn't one bit surprised or shocked or anything. I thought it was more or less what would happen, and it did.
Oh, you're such a Larry letdown. You know that you go back. You're like Donald Trump. You go back on your word. You say stuff and then you go, I didn't really mean it.
Weston keeps accusing me of sitting on the fence. I was fucking sitting on the fence for a reason.
All right, go on, Dara Weston. Your thoughts on the
electric fence, really.
The Lions v Argentina. Were you surprised, Dara, with the result, or would you go with Les and what Mike Reedy apparently said
before? I'd actually said last week that while I hope for a Lions victory, as an Irishman, we've been upset by Argentina so many times that you underestimate Argentina at your peril. Yes. Plus the fact that obviously we were missing a lot of Leinster lads. Mike made that point that the Lions had feck all chance without the Leinster lads. I remember him saying that, definitely.
Yeah, sure did, yeah.
No, but I mean, so I always thought it was going to be dangerous. You had emphasized the fact that Marcus Smith had only played single digits of full back. So, yes. I mean, there was a lot of things there. And, I mean, in reality, we know a lot of the Argentinian players quite well. When you think, I mean, there was one of the lads who was in Connacht a couple of years ago. There's one of the lads who was it Mendy's in Connacht? So, I mean, they're all playing their trade over here. Well, most of them are. So, yeah, no, and to be honest, I don't think the Lions are going to get it as easy as they expect against Australia. I think Australia they can't be as bad as they were under Eddie Jones, under Joe Schmidt. They have to be evolving in some shape or form. So to be honest, I was nearly relieved that they got beaten because I think it could be a kick up the arse to any complacency that they might bring with them.
Yeah, okay. Peter Martin, before I come to you, just to say hello to Luke Conway. Hi, Peter and Matt. Matt is not on tonight. Megan Augusta, evening, gents. Christopher Goff, good evening, Christopher. Good evening, all. Joe Shep, Les, evening, all. Joe with his unstoppable rugby logo. Nice one, Joe. Sonia Croak, evening, gents and fellow viewers. James Grennan, evening, chaps. Greetings from France. Let me see. Christopher Goff is saying good evening to James. Okay, Peter Martin. Were you, as I've asked Les, Mike, and Dara, were you surprised at that result, the Lions' result against Argentina?
I would say no. Can you hear me?
Yeah. Go on. Yeah. Go ahead.
Right. No, I wasn't. I wasn't surprised with the results. I sat down, to watch the game. I watched a good bit of it, and look, it was I thought it was a cracking game. You know, for a neutral, from a neutral standpoint, I thought it was an excellent game. I do think, and I think I would be of the opinion that in the weeks to come, when we're looking at the test decider, you know, when it come to tests, I think the loss to Argentina will be absolute gold in how the Lions will go out and win the test series against Australia, because Argentina have proven yet again they are serious bloody outfit. They just didn't stop. They didn't relent. Anytime Argentina, they got their score and the Lions responded, and Argentina, they came again, and the Lions had to respond, and they came again, and they kept on coming, and they kept on coming, and they kept on coming, and they played fantastic rugby. Like the cohesion is a big thing with, you know, the way Andy Farrell likes to set up his teams. Like that's why we have so many, you know, Leinster players, is the familiarity there. That's why he's picked a team for the game against Western Force. I think he's trying to get that blend.
Pete, there was a lack. Sorry to cut across you. There was a lack of cohesion in the Lions against the Argentinian game.
Yeah. They're trying to get. And I don't know. I referenced this in our own chat, but there was a conversation that Bernard Jackman had with. He was on the Jim Hamilton show, and they're asking, "What is this going on? Why is he picking the players he's picking, and so on?" And ultimately, you know, there's a short period of time to get a bunch of four nations. It's the old cliche to get four nations playing as one. So you're going to basically fast forward. The shortest route to cohesion is picking as many people you trust and you know. Like it's no surprise Mac Hansen had an impact when he came off the bench. It's no surprise that, you know, I suppose some of the Irish players, if you want to put a needle as regards, you know, performance levels, the Irish players perform better. They're more familiar with what Farrell wants than the English and the Scots and the Welsh. That's just the way it is. And I think it's, you know, having the Irish coaching staff there as well, the message is going to be easier to get what Farrell wants, where he has basically the way he wants his teams to play. Everything's based around precision. And when the precision's off, and we saw that against Argentina, where there was an offload going to be thrown by a player and an Argentine player got in the way. And it happened 3 or 4 times. The scrum half got in the way, one of the back row forwards got in the way. Had those players been a red jersey as opposed to blue and white, we'd be looking at a different scenario. I think we'd have seen a different scoreline.
Yeah, look, me auntie have balls and all that should be me uncle. No, I know the point you're making. Anyway, okay. Anyone else? Anything else to say about the Lions Argentina game before we move on? Mike, go on, Les. Go on. Yeah.
It's a good job listening to the fellow guests. It's a good job Argentina had 8 players unavailable, Peter, I think, and it was that was I suppose a bad joke, really. You know, they'd 8 players unavailable because they were playing in various competitions in Europe, and the halfbacks have almost played single of the Pumas. Have come straight out of amateur rugby 18 months ago. 7 of the team that started against the Lions were playing Super Rugby in the Americas 2 years ago, and they're all amateur. So, you know, the game's a simple game, and I look from afar and I just think, I've been brought up 60 years in rugby. The game is a simple game. You keep it simple. You play territory when you've got territory. You read what's in front of you. And I think we overcomplicate the game far too much on occasions. Just keep it simple. Look at the pressure areas. Look at the strengths of your team. Look at the weakness of their team. And you play accordingly. And the Lions have got some fantastic players. You know, and I think Marcus Smith is really copying it. And I think it's not his fault. He's been picked at fullback and they're looking to him at fullback. He's a very, very good player. And from afar, I see the stick that he's getting. He doesn't deserve that. He's a good young player that should be given confidence and should be developed. So
but Les, he's played out of position. That's the problem. He's not a 15.
Agreed. It's not his fault. It's not his fault, Pete.
Yeah. There you go.
And
okay.
You know, and again, you know, you'll see. I think you'll see a different Lions team with a different fly half, and I see what they picked this weekend, and he's a class act. and he'll just bring everything together. So, all the issues you've had in the last week will just be for nothing. I think you'll win all 3 tests, and I think you'll see Lions perform as you want the Lions to perform. And it's a game of rugby; it's not life and death. And it's a great opportunity for all those lads who are wearing the red shirts. I think it's wonderful.
Okay, brilliant. Now, come here, Les. I'm going to move on to Dara Weston here to talk about the Lions team that has been selected.
Just before that, Peter, can I just ask Les a quick question on the Argentinian rugby?
Of course,
so, I mean, you were talking there about club rugby in Argentina, and it's great to hear that there's such massive effort goes into it, and especially considering it's voluntary. Just going back to, do you think it had an impact either for the better or the worse on Argentina when you had the Jaguars Super Rugby team? Did that help kind of bring players back from different areas into one centralized home team? And when that fell apart during COVID, I know I had to read up last night, there's the Pampas and the Dogos, I think. And between them, they basically won all the Latin American and Americas tournaments the last 5 years. But have some of the bigger players been lured back to Europe out of the Jaguars?
Yes, it's a great point, Dara. And again, I take my hat off to what Agustin Pichot and others have created here in Argentina on an amateur basis. Now, with the Super Rugby Americas, there are now 3 franchises. We call them franchises. There are 3 franchises in Argentina. One is the Pampas, which is based in Buenos Aires. You've got the Perucas, which is based in Tucumán, and you've got the Dogos, which is based in Cordoba. So you've got Cordoba, Tucumán, Buenos Aires, 3 franchises, not paid. None of the players are professional, but they're playing Super Rugby and committed in an amateur way, and it's given them the next platform. What I think, I'd love the Lions to come to South America. 3 tests against the Pumas, midweek game against Chile.
No, Les, would you stop? You're jumping ahead of the fucking point. Would you stop now? You're an awful man now doing that now. Les, cool your tits. Cool your enthusiasm.
Come on. So yeah, Dara, they've given a platform. It's built from the base. It's from the base up, and I look at rugby in the UK, and I think the amateur base has been the kindest way to say it. I think the amateur base has been neglected.
Yeah. Well, some of the clubs. I mean, the biggest problem with rugby in England, particularly at the moment, and also Scotland and Wales, is finances. And I mean, for the past couple of years, we saw the Premiership was more about a race to stay solvent than it was to actually win the Premiership. It was a matter of which clubs were going to go bust each year, just because the salaries had gone that high and there was such financial burden on the clubs. And COVID obviously had an awful effect on that, where the revenue wasn't coming in for them. So it's amazing to be consistently producing top players that can punch, for an international squad, and that are in demand all over with the top clubs all over the world from an inherently amateur system.
Unbelievable.
It's serious credit to Argentina.
Okay, let's move on, folks, because we're on nearly approaching half an hour. Dara, you were talking. So, Mike Reedy, the Lions team that has been selected to play the Western Force.
Mm-hmm.
I'm looking at it here. Any surprises for you?
No.
Have you got it there?
No, I've seen the team. I don't have it in front of me here, but
yeah.
Front row, Schumann, Sheehan, and Furlong. Strong. Yeah. That's strong. That's a strong front row. That's a powerful front row, and I hope Tyke Furlong is fit enough to be. Obviously, he should be. He's been picked, and we've got Cummins and
Joe McCarthy
in the Boiler House, and then back row Van der Fleer and that young boy Potter. No,
Henry Pollock and
Tyke Burns,
Josh.
6.
Yeah, Tyke Burns is playing 6.
I'm a little bit surprised at that now, but I'm not sure.
So am I, and so is Joe Shep. I know he's watching.
I'm a little bit surprised. I think it's a pointless exercise. Maybe not. halfbacks, then Tomas Williams. He did all right. If we're honest, he probably did better than Alex Mitchell when he came on last week. He was.
He's probably third choice though, Mike. He's probably
He
third
might
choice.
very well be. He might very well be. Who knows how it'll pan out? We don't know that. We don't know that.
Yeah.
And Finn Russell is there obviously, and I'm glad he's gone with Tui Pilato at 12 rather than 13.
Because
that was a poor exercise last week. It proved that he's an out and out 12, and 13 is not his position. Definitely, he was very. He was poor, if anything. I like, obviously we all know Gary Ringrose well, and I'm pleased. Mac Hansen's got a go. He's on, or is he on the bench? No, I know he's playing, isn't he? He's starting.
No, he's starting.
Yeah, he's starting with. And like, in all honesty, if he was going to pick a full back last week, it should have been Elliot Daly.
Well, he's starting. He's starting.
He's starting, yeah, but he should have started last week, really, because Marcus Smith's never a full back. But no, I think it's a stronger Lions team, to be honest with you. I think it's a better balanced team.
I would tend to agree with you, Mike. I would tend to agree with you.
I don't know. I mean, you'd have to say. I mean, if they don't prevail against Western Force, then they may as well all come home now. To be honest,
I don't know. The Western Force,
they have 6 Wallabies in their lineup.
Yeah.
But
now, Peter Martin, before I come to you, Mike Sheedy. Hello, Mike. Argentina, best team on the night.
Yeah.
There you go, Les. Sonia Croak. Itoje was totally anonymous. Is he really captain material? Too late to change, probably. Les, go on quickly, just on that particular comment there from Sonia. Itoje, is he really captain material? What would you reckon, Les?
Yes, I think he's done a fantastic job for England. He's a leader. He's well respected. You know, in rugby, the beauty of rugby, Peter, is you have hiccups. And Friday night was a hiccup for the Lions against a very, very strong Argentine team. Lads are given an opportunity of a lifetime to put the Puma shirt on. So, you know, you have hiccups in the game. I think there's a lot of people throw stones in glass houses. The Lions team last Friday was a fantastic team put together. We said beforehand it's going to be a hell of a challenge to get on the upper hand of the Pumas. And I think the Lions team you've just gone through, what a fantastic team. They start to play and I think they'll rip people apart. I've every confidence the Lions will turn it around.
All right. Okay. Thanks, Les. Tanya McDermott, and then I'm coming to you, Pete. Great to see Sheehan getting the captaincy for Lions match. Good shout. Yes, absolutely. Totally agree, Tanya. Peter Martin, your thoughts on the team and Elliot Daly flown in a fullback, Marcus Smith thrown to the bench. Front row changed. Dan captain. You're right, Mike. Yeah, Peter Martin, what do you think of the team that has been selected for the Western Force?
Yeah, well, I think look, as Mike said, it's a very balanced team. Cummins and Joe McCarthy. You've got 2 real workhorse second rows there. Byrne being selected at 6 is there for line out as much as anything else, because Big Joe is the heavy tight head lock. He's not the line out operator. He's not the line out noose. He's there for his job is different. His job is in the ground rather than the air. Cummins is just is a workhorse, good solid lock. Look at halfback. I think to be honest with you, thinking you've mentioned about Thomas Williams, third choice, I would disagree. I think he's a dark horse. I think he's a superior scrum half to Mitchell. No!
Jeez, no.
Well, there you go. He's been the outstanding scrum half in the
He's the
Gallagher
player of the
Premiership.
year in England.
Yeah, that's my point. He's been player of the year. He is an excellent all-round scrum half, and I think he'll be, unless there's a significant dip in form or else injury, I think he'll be back up to Gibson Park, who's the front runner at the moment. Look, Russell at 10, he's going to pull the strings and add that bit of X factor, as you love, Peter. You have a more balanced, more familiar centre partnership, and of course, look, you've got the two Irish lads on the wings, and Daly, who's a very solid operator at full back. I just think it's extraordinary again that we've already discussed about Marcus Smith not being a 15, and yet Nolly's covering he's not covering the 20. He's covering the outside back jersey at 23 on the bench. But
they don't have a 10. They don't have a specialist 10 on the bench.
So
he's covering both. He's covering both. Sure.
Yeah. Well. Yeah, he's going to have to. That's
true. Okay.
The role. That's the role he has. But look, there's impact on the bench. I think the other thing as well is the selection of Pollock at 8 is interesting. Like, he came on and he played 8 for Ben Earl, I think, against Argentina. It's obviously that Farrell has an opinion that he sees him more as an 8 than on the side of the scrum. But look, he Pollock is there to use his pace. I think that's one of his greatest assets. Plus the fact he's just that his personality and his pace is, I'd say, is Pollock's.
But it's an 8 though, Pete. It is Pollock an 8.
There's a question. Like there's so many players who play back row, and you see it in New Zealand when they select the side, they basically say back row. They don't say 6 or 7 or an 8. They just say back row when they're selecting the squad. That is.
Yeah.
And I think what it boils down to is it's what you're looking for, balance. Like, Pollock is going to be a nuisance, like a way a good 7 is, but you have Byrne there as well, who's going to giving you that breakdown. But
Pete, he wasn't a nuisance against Argentina. He was shut down.
It's very, very hard to you're up against very quality operators in Oviedo and Matera, and to come in at that point, look, he's 22 years of age. He's having he's risen that fast. He's in danger of getting a nosebleed. So he's not going to. It'd be extraordinary had he if we had a number of wild moments against Argentina. But look, Conan is there to come off the bench. Conan brings the more typical number 8 attributes: the strong, heavy carrying, the physicality. Slightly different player than what Pollock is. Who knows? Maybe you could see the likes of Van der Fleer going off and Pollock switching when Conan comes on. We'll see.
All right. Okay. Before we move on, James Grennan, our friend and colleague, Jesus Mike, Mac isn't good enough at the moment to start for Connacht, let alone start for the Lions. Okay.
Not agreeing with you there, James. Sorry.
All right. Okay. James, does the host, i.e. me, have an inferiority complex? Why is he wearing a hat? I always wear a hat. And I don't have an inferiority complex. Oh God, yeah. No, there's a few here that I'm not even going to mention. James Brennan, great to see Les on the show. Big fan of. There you go, Les. You got a fan there.
You must have a long memory.
All right. Okay. Anyway,
I remember you playing well.
I remember you playing this well, Les, for Christ's sake. Jesus Christ. It wasn't that long ago, for Christ's sake.
I'm probably as old as...
Sorry, go on, Mike.
I said I'm as old as Les.
You're as old as Les, all right.
Not far off.
Les, here we go. Okay, we've left the last subject matter behind. Now, Les, you touched on it, and you were going there, and you were robbing the points. A Lions tour to Argentina. Go, let's.
3 test matches. Pumas 1, 2, 3 on Saturdays. 3, 4 midweek games. Argentina 15. Uruguay. Chile.
Yeah.
And South America select 15. And what would be very interesting, Warren Gatland has just been here, coaching and assisting the Uruguay team. They've just won Super Rugby here, South America of Uruguay. And if somebody would ask Warren what his opinion was, the rugby here, you guys don't see it very often, is absolutely fantastic. And as I mentioned, the three franchises in Argentina. There's another three desperate to come in. The three regions desperate to come in and join Super Rugby in Argentina. And the kind of budget for a franchise here is $700,000. That's everything. So it's very affordable. Nobody's paying, and why people don't modify the model for what's suitable in their countries and their unions, it beggars belief.
Hold on a second, Les. I could buy a team in Argentina, a franchise, for 700,000.
No, because it's run by the rugby union. The Argentine Rugby Union run it, so that you're not allowed to. The Argentine Union and the Uruguayan Union control the competition. And what I'm saying is approximately, there are the approximate costs to run each team. Travel, accommodation when required, food when required, equipment, etc. So it's, in terms of European rugby, it's a drop in the ocean.
Yeah,
and this is what the brilliant minds of amateur rugby here have created over the last 20 years. And leading the front is a little guy called Agustin Pichot. The quicker they get him in as chairman of World Rugby, the quicker we can get back our great game.
Les, don't start me on this. Sorry, go on, Les. Sorry.
Don't back off. Go for it, Pete. Come on, give us your opinion.
No, I'm not, because I'll get barred. I've got in trouble before with people. So I'm not.
No.
Yeah, but the rest of us have nothing to lose, so it's no. I mean, we.
Yes,
as a fan, I think World Rugby does need. Yeah, as a fan, Les, I would agree. I think World Rugby does need to go back towards the kind of the original ethos, kind of, the amateur kind of ethos of it. Yeah. I mean, the new president we've coming in, when you look at, who the contenders were against him, the Italian guy only had, I think, one cap for Italy or something. And I think he played a couple of games in the pro era. So we still haven't fully transitioned into a professional era president or chairman, who Pichot would be, haven't played in that era. So, because one of the things that, one of the biggest expenses probably at the moment in World Rugby is probably referee training, and the amount of tinkering with laws and the amount of, workshops that you have to put on for coaches, for refs, everybody, when they decide to trial a new law somewhere or another and then bring it in somewhere else. Somebody, a robin farts in New Zealand and they bring in a new law against it. So it's no, I definitely agree with that.
Just a question for Les. Seeing as you bring up about touring, from a fan's perspective, to go to and just we'll say you're picturing the itinerary, right? For a fan to fly from Europe, Dublin, London, Cardiff, whatever, to go to Argentina for, we'll say, a week, maybe 10 days, and maybe take in maybe 2 tests and a midweek game. From a cost perspective, what is I'm just putting you on the spot with this, obviously, but from a cost of living perspective, how expensive would it be for somebody in Europe to, if that was to become a reality? Because that's it all comes down to numbers, unfortunately.
Cheaper than Australia, Peter. Economy flight to British Airways or whoever, Aer Lingus or whoever, Lufthansa, wherever, Iberia, whichever one you choose. Economy is about $1,200, about £900. Hotels are cheaper. The internal travel is cheaper. If you did Uruguay is a ferry ride away, an hour and a half across the River Plate. So the travel, I don't see an issue really. I think it would be a wonderful, wonderful occasion for. It's a stunning country, is Argentina. South America is a stunning place. The climate is great. and I just think I don't see a downside to it from UK perspective or South America perspective. I think everybody wins, and for me, life's about rugby's an experience. You've got to enjoy the experience in life, and I think it's a win-win for everybody. And I just hope, there are some wonderful people involved in rugby in the UK, and the new chairman of World Rugby is a really wonderful guy from the Southern Hemisphere, and they'll do a fantastic job. But I just think we're at a stage now where I think we're at a perilous stage with amateur rugby where it needs a slightly different perspective. And I think, and I'm not flying the flag for Agustin for 1 second. I'm 70 years old. You never stop learning in this game, and his perspective on how to take rugby forward, I think, is mind blowing in Argentina. And I'm old fashioned. I'm old school, and the quicker we can get the amateur base back together, the better. I go back to Leicester days when we used to play Maesteg, Pontypool, Neath, Swansea, Cardiff, Ebervale, Newport. Where are they now? And I think you erode. I try and be kind. You erode the base. There's nothing coming up to the top of the pyramid. And I think the quicker I'd look at Wales, and I'd scrub the franchises, and I'd go back to a 12 club league, and I would go back to part-time rugby, semi-pro at best, and do what you can afford. And I think I'll get off my soapbox. To me, I care about rugby. I care about amateur rugby. My dad was a coal miner. I was lucky enough to be given this opportunity in life. And I just think the quicker we can get back to the clubs, the better.
That is a fantastic. So, go on.
Sorry, just quick question, Les. Is there any truth in the kind of, I don't know whether it's an urban myth or whatever, that apparently rugby is so successful in Argentina because a lot of Welsh miners moved over there back in the late 1800s? Because isn't there part of the south of Argentina where they actually speak Welsh, somewhere on the Pampas?
Patagonia.
We sent all the sheep and all the Welsh down there years ago. I'm joking. Yes, there is. It's the place is called Patagonia. Patagonia is where the signs outside are all in Welsh. And I always smiled. 2005, I was with the Pumas and Wales came over. And I said to Lafreda, my good friend, the coach, I said, Marcelo, where are we playing? Where are we playing Wales? He said, oh, that's Patagonia. I said, Patagonia? I said, why is that? He said, it's where all the Welsh are. So we got down to Patagonia, and there's 8,000-seater stadium. You couldn't see a blue and white flag because all the Welsh were there and singing hymns and arias and what have you. And isn't that a lovely, lovely story? The Argentines take the Welsh to their homeland. And one thing I mustn't forget is what I've learned I never stop learning. The last 6 months, Argentina have appointed Marcelo Lafreda, the head coach of the Pumas, as the liaison between the referees and administrators, the players and the clubs. And he now works for the Argentine Rugby Union. His job is to help the referees understand the game. His job is also to speak to all the teams, all the representatives about behavioural expectations on behaviour and morals that they've got to have, and the responsibilities they've got to have as a team. So the most successful coach Argentina's ever had is now employed by the union, talking about values, what's expected of people, what's expected of players, how they've got to behave, and they will sanction players. They will sanction players if they don't adhere to this. And similarly, talks about the no drink responsibly, behave yourself. And when I was involved with the Pumas, when they'd finished in a changing room, the Pumas players would actually tidy up the changing room, and they'd be the last one out, and the changing room would be spotless. And Contempomi, Pichot, and people like that would clean up the changing room after they finished. And they've now put a guy in charge to get the moral values into the kids, the players, the administrators, Marcelo Lafreda. And again, a brilliant move and a brilliant appointment. And I think we can all learn from it.
Oh, very good. Mike Reedy, you haven't spoken in a while.
I think it's a lovely idea, Les, and it's almost a romantic idea. But unfortunately, the reality is the sport has developed into a so-called professional era, and I think it's going to be very, very difficult to revert back to an amateur to an amateur era again. Now, having said that, other countries are even New Zealand as a nation.
I feel a rant coming on here from Reed.
No, there's no rant coming on. Even no. The way rugby has gone, and finance has like destroyed the ethos of rugby. There's no question about it. It has helped some. It has helped some countries, Ireland being one of them, if we're honest. The professional era has helped the Irish rugby. It hasn't helped English rugby at all. It did for a while, but they lose the run of themselves. There's too much finance involved. There's too much money. All sports are like that, where it becomes like, it becomes more about the money than it does about the sport, and even the individuals involved, the respect and the ethics. Like, I'm going back. I'm not quite as old as you, Les. I thought you were younger, to be honest. I do remember you playing very well, but I remember going back to the 70s, and my first memories of rugby, like the early 70s and the Lions team, like with Gareth Edwards and Phil Bennett and Willie John McBride and Mike Gibson and players like that. I mean, that's what brought me into rugby, and my love for it has never waned. But the game has moved in a different direction, and whether it's right or wrong, I think it's a lovely idea, and I would personally love to see a Lions tour of Argentina. However, again, because of the traditions of the competition, it's been kindly based between. Although South Africa weren't in it for a long, long time, but then was the time. It's a shame. It's a shame Argentina didn't get in before South Africa were allowed back in.
There was a reason South Africa weren't in it, Mike.
Oh no, of course there was, and a very legitimate reason and a proper reason. They shouldn't have been allowed in. But I would love to see a tour of Argentina. I don't know how they could fit it in. Having said that, let's see how this tour of Australia goes, because they.
No, but Mike, you fit it in like everything, whatever it is, cycle.
You'd be looking at 16-year cycles in between the different.
Well, whatever. New Zealand, South Africa, Argentina. So why can't you fit it in? I mean, I think it would work.
I think it's a fantastic idea. And on top of that, you've got great beef down there and great bloody red wine, Les. You're living in a fantastic spot, and I would
beef for the forwards and a glass of wine for the backs.
Love to get down there.
It's a place I would definitely go.
It's the best Malbec in the world and the best steaks in the world, without doubt.
I've never been, Les, as I said to you before, I've never been to South Africa or Argentina. It is a place I would like to visit. But listen, Les, let me ask you, and I'll go round to Pete, Mike and Dara. Les, any Lions players that you thought... I won't talk about the Argentinian players because it's a Lions tour. Any Lions players, Les, that you thought kind of didn't do themselves any favours that game last Friday?
No, I'd sooner turn it on which players I think will excel for the Lions.
You could do that. You could do that. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I don't want to. They were in a very difficult situation. Anybody that plays against the Pumas know that they're going to be rattled. And we talked last week about dynamism in the tackle area, picking the ball. We call it pescador, fishing for the ball, slowing the opposition's ball down. It is very difficult to play against Argentina, whichever side you play against. I think they've got some wonderful, wonderful players right across the board. You look at the Northampton halfbacks, went on the front foot, didn't play their normal game. You look at the halfbacks coming in, I agree with Pete. Thomas Williams has been sensational for Gloucester. Finn Russell, absolutely brilliant for Bath.
Les, would you stop talking Finn Russell?
Yeah, you ask for an opinion, you're gonna get it, Pete. And I just think there are some. I think they'll go through Australia unbeaten. How's that?
You think Les will go 3-0?
I said that last week as well. I said Argentina would beat us, but they'd win 3-0.
All right, Dara Weston, were you going to jump in there and say something?
I was it forgotten now?
You're a liar.
Oh, sorry. When I was thinking of the Lions thing, I was thinking the only way they could swing it to South America would be if they got the USA involved as well. That would probably
behave.
Oh no,
Keep them far away.
No, but unfortunately, that's the one girl that World Rugby want to get with. You know, she's the girl in the corner that they have pinned up on their wall, and they really want to conquer North America because they want the big money from there. So that would be the only way we'll see them over in the Americas is if there's some kind of a Trans Americas tournament organized where the Lions go over and they play several international sides. But to be honest, the Argentinians and the Uruguayans will give them a much better game than the Americans would at the moment. And historically, they've always been much stronger teams.
Yeah, true. Okay. Mike Reedy, any thoughts on this particular subject that I've absolutely completely forgotten about what we're talking about?
You want to know who made the shambles on Friday, which is kind of unfair because it's the first game. They're all playing together. Half of them were being played slightly out of position because we've an embarrassment of racism.
All right, go on, Mike.
I keep getting accused of sitting on the fence, but I don't sit on the fence when it comes to analysing what's happened in a game. So I think possibly Duhan van der Merwe hasn't done himself any favours.
I thought
he's weak defensively, and this is what I said.
No, come here. Hold on. We have all said this. I've certainly said it. Duhan van der Merwe is a one-trick pony. Right.
I know he's a bit more than that in fairness.
No, he's not.
Defensively, he's weak.
Mike. 1 second. He's great going forward, but he cannot tackle to save his bloody life. Well, Mike,
I said that last week. He couldn't tackle a fish supper, but there you go.
I just said.
Unfortunately for the Lions, he proved me right. Marcus Smith, I said, was weak under a high ball.
Shite.
That happened as well. He wasn't. He didn't. He's not a full back, lads, and he shouldn't. I think it's exposing the players.
He's fucking shite, Mike. He's fucking.
Okay, I don't want to. No, I don't like saying players are shite. It's not right. I think.
You don't have to say they're shite, Mike. You just have to agree with what Peter says.
Exactly.
No, you don't. No.
I'll tell you one thing that did surprise me about last week's game, by the way, was how well the Lions scrum did against Argentina. I thought we'd be mullered. I genuinely thought we'd be mullered in the scrum, and we weren't. Now that surprised me a little bit. The lineup was fucking a mess. I think Cowan Dickey probably hasn't done himself a power of favours in as hooker. I thought Genge was outstanding, absolutely, and he was outstanding carrying the ball, everything, his whole game. And I thought also Bielam played very, very well at tight head.
Yeah.
I thought Itoje did very little, to be honest. He was totally anonymous in the game.
Mike, just call it. Shite. Mike, just call it. He was shite. Itoje was shite. Right?
He'll be better. He'll be better, Peter. I'm going to give the guy the benefit of the doubt now. You know, he's been picked as the captain. We have to get behind him.
Les, just in case you're in any doubt, Les, Peter Burke will tell you your opinion.
I'm not trying to tell. No, I'm not. That's not what I'm doing. I'm giving my opinion. I think
you're completely contravening the ethos of rugby, saying things like that.
Genge was great. I thought Itoje was shite. Go on. Sorry.
We're going off script here, Peter.
We normally do. We normally do. I told Les we do this.
As I've said it numerous times after many points, but Curry had a great game actually. Normally I only go for a Curry after a few points, but I thought he had a good game now.
Go on, Peter Martin, Les, before I come to you, Peter Martin, your thoughts on the point. I've completely forgotten what I'm talking about.
Look, it's too early to make judgment calls, but look, I kind of made a point to an earlier question. The Irish players who are most familiar with the way Farrell Farrell's vision of the game, the way he wants the Lions to play, are played better. That's in a general sense. Like Bealham, absolute stormer. Like, don't forget, Bealham was a call-up because Fagerson was injured. And I'm sure everybody's seen the clip, like, talking about, when how Farrell spoke in front of the rest of the squad, told how when Bealham was called up and was getting emotional and all that kind of stuff. Bealham had an absolute stormer. He rose to the challenge. He set the standard for all the fluffy stuff that Farrell is talking about, where, like, we're looking for this higher standard. You're here to bring everybody up, that kind of stuff. So Bealham was outstanding. He put in he won scrum penalties against Argentina. He tackled his socks off for the time he was on the pitch. Look, it's still too early. Yeah, Marcus Smith was pulled here, left, right, and centre. His position-wise wasn't there. He's not a 15. Let's just leave it at that. Duhan van der Merwe is a guy who's used to front football all the time. When he's turned, he's not comfortable. He's a big man, but he needs to have the ball, put in front of him, and where he's basically 1-on-1 or even 1-on-3, that's his bread and butter. He wasn't getting that against Argentina. Argentina made him turn. They made it difficult for him, and he was lost. He was swimming. But look, he'll come back. He'll get used to it. Once he's got the right players around him, he will get the right. Once Farrell gets the centres combination around him, he'll probably play better when Hugh Jones comes on. When Hugh Jones is playing in the side, because the familiarity. It's too early to kind of to say, that certain players have written themselves out of it. We're all going to get a much better picture after the game against Force on Saturday, because there'll only, as I've been rightly corrected by Mark Hunter, there'll only be 2 players then who won't have played a minute. 3 players who won't have played a minute in a Lions jersey, which will be Blair Kinghorn, Gibson Park, and Mac
Hugo
Hansen.
Keane.
Sorry, Hugo Keane.
Yeah. Okay, very good. Okay, gentlemen, we are fast approaching the hour mark. Les, I'm coming to you first on this. This is our win, lose, or draw. Okay. Now, we have, of course, the Lions are playing, but we have 3 interesting games coming up, Les. Okay. First up, we have Lions versus Western Force. Les, who's winning, who's losing, who's drawing that?
Lions by 40.
Lions by 40?
Yep, 40. Not 14, 40.
4-0.
Yeah, right there, Les, yeah? 40? Seriously?
Yeah, seriously. You're very pessimistic, Pete, as the leader of the group.
I think we'll call him Pessimistic Pete from now on. That's your new nickname.
Thanks very much. Okay, lads, we have South Africa are playing the Babas. I know it's a thing.
South Africa playing?
The Barbarians.
Depends which South Africa team. If it's a strong South Africa team, South Africa by 25.
All right. LC by 25. Okay. Now, the last one, Les, which I think is going to be a great game, is the top 14. We have Toulouse versus Bordeaux. Any thoughts on that, Les? That's going to be a great game.
That is serious rugby.
Yeah.
Serious rugby. Bordeaux be 25-22, Bordeaux by 3.
Bordeaux by 3?
Yeah.
All right.
Yep,
LC, no, hold on. I'm doing LC, Bordeaux by 3. Okay.
You've forgotten Japan against Wales, Pete, coming up.
No, but isn't that's Sunday, isn't it? Is that Sunday?
Probably later, a week later. I'm joking.
No, yeah, next week. Yeah, all right, yeah. All right, Les.
Maybe versus Italy as well, Pete.
No, just shut up. The fuck.
Wales are going for their 18th loss in a row.
Les, I'll ring you tomorrow and I'll give you my predictions for that game. Right? Okay. Dara Weston. Lions versus Western Force. Would you be as confident as Les Cusworth there with the 40 plus?
I don't know would it be 40 plus. I certainly think the Lions will win it, and I mean ultimately it's a combination of internationals against a club team with a couple of internationals. I do see a Lions victory, but I hope we can get up to what Les has predicted. I thought maybe 3 scores, but you know, if we can get 40 over them, that'd be brilliant.
But is Les fucking smacked off his tits here on some fucking Argentinian fucking tea or something?
Well, yeah, he agreed to come on with us. Obviously, he's had a few glasses of Malbec. Like, you know, you don't agree to come on with us unless you're sober.
Think positive. Think positive. You Irish guys, there's an Irish bias about this program. Think positive.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
right,
it. No,
okay.
it's pessimistic theater there.
There you go. Okay, Dara, South Africa v the Barbarians. Would you go with 25
so like
points?
Baba's games should traditionally be like Harlem Globetrotters. You know, it should be about kind of a bit of fun, you know, rugby. The South Africans tend not to get the memo on that, and they tend to treat every game as if it's vitally important. So yeah, okay. I think the Safas will take them apart.
Okay, and the top 14 game, Dara, which I'm so looking forward to watching this.
Toulouse, it's going to be
Toulouse versus Bordeaux.
I think, yeah, I think like Les says, it's going to be very, very close. I'd love to see Hart would love to see Bordeaux come out ahead, but just I don't know. Toulouse have so much experience. I think Toulouse might just squeeze it.
All right. Sonia Croak, tell us what you really think. Pessimistic Pete. Thanks, Sonia. Brilliant. Sorry, Dara. Were you finished there?
Yes, I was.
Sorry. Okay, Mike Reedy. Lions v Western Force. Who's winning? And Mike, would you agree with Les's prediction that it's going to be a 40-plus point victory? Dara is kind of hesitant. Go on.
I'm not so sure about 40 points now, but you know, all going well. They're well capable of putting big scores up, but 40 points is a lot. Is a hell of a victory. I think if they score 40 points, I'd be happy. But right, the Lions will win the game, no question about it.
Okay. South Africa versus the Barbarians, Mike.
I actually agree with what Dara here said about this. By the way, South Africa just do not get the memo. You're right. They just can't. They can't bring themselves to. I mean, there's no ethos in rugby at all in South Africa. None, zero. They never got that memo for starters. But they'll rough up the Babas. They will. Because a few guys going out to play for the Babas that will want to rough up, like one of our, like the captain, the Babas captain, for instance, Peter O'Mahony. They'll want to smash him, and Sam Kane, and there's a few guys playing for the Babas that.
Brilliant. Okay, Mike, the top 14, Toulouse versus Bordeaux.
I think Bordeaux will win this. I do. Well, is Billy Barry playing? You know. That's why I call him Billy Barry. B-L-A-R-E, or whatever his name is.
That's brilliant. Never heard that before.
He's if he's playing Bordeaux, Billy Barry's playing, then I can't see past Bordeaux. With 2 punts, I think Toulouse would have been the favourites for it, but they obviously don't have him. So,
okay, brilliant. So or is going for Bordeaux. All right, Peter Martin. Lions versus Western Force. Win, lose, or draw. Go ahead.
I would expect the Lions to win. I won't go with a 40-point scoreline. But I
was just going to ask you.
Something along the lines of, and I'm sticking my neck out here on this. I'd be something along the lines of 25-10 or something like that to the Lions.
All right, okay. South Africa, Pete, versus the Barbarians.
Yeah, South Africa, I saw that you hit the nail on the head there with that comment, Dara, as regards the South Africans have no sense of crack. Everything's so bloody serious. And I saw there was a tweet exchange on X or Twitter, whatever you want to call it, between Razzie and the Barbaz Twitter account about not pushing in scrums, and he has to talk to Dan Hooman about it and blah blah blah. So yeah, absolute. But that Barbaz team is interesting. The entire back line selected is our New Zealanders, our Kiwis.
Yeah.
And you've got Peter O'Mahony and Sam Kane there as well.
So go on. Who's winning? Who's winning?
Look, South Africa will probably do them, but I reckon that'll be a hell of a match, and I reckon there'll be a bit of shirt pulling. I think O'Mahony will get his hands on a Springbok jersey one final time.
All right. Okay, so PM is going for South Africa. Okay, Peter, last game, the top 14, Toulouse versus Bordeaux.
Like yourself, I am absolutely looking forward to this game. And we must get Noel Mack back on as well, just as an aside, because we did have him on before. Yeah. I would say I think just the momentum of Bordeaux is going to swing it for them. And I would say it'd be like 3 or 5 points.
All right.
Something like that. Big score.
Okay, gentlemen, we are over the hour mark per usual. So it is time to end our broadcast. So my thanks to all of you for watching and commenting. My thanks to our participants. These are the people behind the group that you are involved with. They are Dara Weston, Mike Reedy, and Peter Martin. And our thanks to Les. My God, thank you very much. We will have you on again. Les Cusworth, you are a legend. And thank you very much for joining our humble podcast and discussing everything rugby. Folks, enjoy the rest of your evening, and thank you very much for joining in. Good luck.
Thanks,
good
everybody.
night. Take care.
Take care.